Hi guys, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be rating every single robot in War Robots in different tiers. I have 6 tiers to rate them in: F tier, D tier, C tier, B tier, and S tier. S tier is going to be the tier with the top 5 robots. And then everything else, you can have unlimited robots in them, but I did my best to disperse them and rate them fairly. Now, I did record the footage for this on the War Robots test server for iOS, so it might be a little bit laggy. The gameplay might not be very good. Some weapons were bugged. I might disconnect, but just bear with me. And also, when I'm done talking about a robot or talking about a clip, and the clip's still going, I will fast forward it, okay? Now I'm going to start from F tier and go over to S tier. Let's get into it. The first robot that we have in F tier is Destrier, and yeah, as you can see by the gameplay, it sucks, it's terrible. It's the first robot you get for a reason. Then, the next robot we get is Jeopard. It's like a less sucky version of Destrier, but it's still not good at all. But I gotta admit, it is better, but it doesn't cut it still. Then, we go over up to D tier, and we get the Gareth. It's the smallest of the I guess English robots with the shield. It's the fastest, the most nimble, but its shield doesn't have any health. It's like its physical shield, like literally, like it like blocks like one shot, and then it gets destroyed. And then you have a low amount of firepower and a low amount of health, and that's why I placed it so low. And by the way, the shoots, it was on the test server, so I couldn't show gameplay for it, but it is an F tier because it's not that good of a robot. It's super rare, but it's slow. It's not that fast. It has one weapon. It's a heavy weapon, but not enough, and it doesn't have a lot of health. We're getting killed with the Gareth now, and we're jumping into the Bolt. The Bolt is also D tier. It will be good in lower leagues, like I want to say from Recruit to, let's see, maybe Silver 3, but anything above that, it won't perform so well. But it does have a dash that regenerates a lot, and it does have 3 light weapons, and that's why it's better than the robots that we've seen before. And yeah, I'm having technical difficulties here. I got killed with it, and now I get into the Jessie. The Jessie really isn't anything special. It has 4 light weapons, but you can use 2 at a time. It doesn't have a lot of health. It's decently fast. I like it because you can like use 2 types of weapons. You can use a long range and a short range. I like that kind of creativity that they give you, but it just doesn't have a lot of health, and it's super slow. It's not slow, but yeah, and 2 light weapons at a time isn't a lot of firepower either. Next, we're jumping into the Stalker. I highly recommend this robot for lower leagues, like from Recruit all the way over to Silver, because it's fast, it has stealth for a long time, and if you put, well, you don't have to put very good weapons on there, but you can like put Punishers and it'll still perform good. But it does lose its value in the same way that the Bolt does. The Stalker and the Bolt are in the same boat in this case, and the Gareth. They lose value very quickly once very good robots start getting put into the mix, because they can't compete. It doesn't have any health like the Bolt and the Gareth, and also like them, it is very fast. That's why I recommend it, but I don't think that you should use the gold for it. You can. It's not like the worst way to use your gold, but make sure that you get your 5th hanger slot first. And then sell it once you get a faster robot like Strider, Phantom, a Loki, those types of robots. And then we just died with the Paladin. It has 4 light weapons. It's not very fast, but it does have some health. But in a test server where everyone has unlimited resources, it wasn't very competitive. In the live server, maybe, but it's not very good still. I wouldn't recommend it for higher leagues. And the boa, I actually made a mistake here. I recorded it with a D tier, but I think that it's more of a C tier because it has a lot of health and it's not even that slow. It's pretty slow, but it's not that slow. But it has a lot of health and has a decent amount of firepower. So it is a C tier, but it's very rare. And I recommend with this robot they should use weapons that aren't burst damage. You should probably use weapons that do a lot of damage over time. Alright, now we're shooting this Fenrir down. We're out of ammo and we're gonna die soon because someone's shooting us in the back. But before we went down, we did do some damage to the Fenrir, and now we're jumping into the Vityaz. This robot, it's worth silver. It has a decent amount of health. It offers a lot of firepower. It's kind of slow, but not that much. And I do recommend it for lower leagues. So you should get this robot for your 3rd robot in the whole game. This is the robot that you should get because it's not very expensive and it's very good. You put Punishers and a Thunder on it and you'll be pretty good for about 2 leagues, and then you'll have to upgrade to like a Natasha or something. But while it is very good in lower leagues, it's not competitive in higher leagues. And next we have the Rogotga, which I believe is in C tier. It is in C tier because it's like a Cossack, only it has its jump like 1 or 2 seconds later, but which is still very, very often. It has more health. It has 1 more medium weapon. So it's a very nimble robot, yet it's pretty strong, and it has a little bit more firepower. So with this movement that you have, and with this moderate amount of firepower, you can cause a lot of havoc in lower leagues. But if you get into probably Gold League, it'll start not doing so well, and you might have to switch the robot. It's worth gold, so I actually wouldn't recommend buying it because once you're at that stage, once you can buy your Agatka, you can also buy like a Griffin, a Leo, a Natasha. Those I think perform a little bit worse, but they're still very good, and they're worth silver, so you don't have to waste your gold, and instead you can buy a hanger slot, or you could spend money on pilots or drones. Next up is Galahad, C tier, because it's the bigger brother of the Gareth, You have one more light weapon. Your physical shield is a little bit stronger. You have a little more health. But you're slower. It's way better though. It's more competitive, but I was in a bad situation here. And I died pretty quick. But it is a good robot. I wouldn't recommend buying it because it's worth gold. But if you do get it in like a chest, then you should probably use it in the lower leagues. Probably up to gold and then switch it out. Next, I have the same thoughts about this one, the Doc. It's a bigger brother of Jesse. It has 4 medium weapons instead of 4 light weapons. So it has decent firepower, but still not enough because it's not nimble. It's pretty fast, but it's pretty fast and it doesn't have that much health either. And then the Natasha. I so recommend this robot for lower leagues. Don't run it with the setup that I'm running right here. I was just experimenting. But this robot is very good from probably recruit to gold 1. Or I might even say diamond. Because it has so much health and it has an amazing amount of firepower. It's very good. But you should probably change it for something else that has a lot of firepower when you get to probably Diamond 2 or something. The same thing with the Leo. I very recommend this robot because it has a lot of firepower and it's very, very tanky. You have 200,000 health at level 8. And yeah, I mean, I think that should speak for itself. Every other robot, like when you're using a Leo, every other robot in the lower leagues has like not even 100,000 health. This thing has 200,000 health. But it does decrease in value very quickly because it's very slow. Same thing with the Natasha. But not so much with the Griffin. The Griffin has a jump, but it doesn't recharge very fast. It does have a lot of firepower. It has it has a decent amount of health. And I very recommend this robot also. The 3 robots, Natasha, Leo, and Griffin, are the number 1 robots that you should have in Silver League. Next up, we have the Butch. This is the biggest boy of I guess they're the American robots, where you can like switch between weapons. This one has the most health. It is very slow, but it has 4 heavy weapons. It makes for a very good sniper in lower leagues. It's worth gold, so again, don't recommend it. But if you do get it in a chest, you should probably in lower leagues from recruit to silver, you should probably run thunders on it because you'll be able to do a lot of damage and you'll actually be able to get close. But from gold league and up, you should run sniper weapons on it and then it'll be competitive. And this is the Fujin. Now this is a very interesting robot with value. It's worth 5 million silver, so it's actually pretty expensive. But if you get it from, I want to say recruit, all the way over to gold, if you get it in between then, it's going to be your best friend. It's literally going to destroy everything. Nothing will be able to stop this robot. No one will be able to drop its energy shield. No one will know how to counter you or walk into your shield. You're gonna just destroy everyone before they get anywhere close to damaging you. But this robot decreases in value so fast because when you get into like more than gold league, people start using a lot of energy weapons. And this robot doesn't have that much health. So when they use energy weapons in higher leagues, it'll bypass your energy shield and you'll just drop like a fly. I wouldn't recommend to get this robot because even though it's going to be very good in lower leagues, it's going to be terrible in higher leagues and it's going to be hard to replace. It doesn't hold its value as much as Natasha, Leo, or Griffin, and that's why I don't recommend it as much. Next, we have the Rhino. I don't know how to play this robot, but it's actually, I think in lower leagues, I think it's pretty good. It'd be pretty good because you have a lot of firepower, you have a lot of health, you basically have an unbreaking physical shield, and when you have it up, you're pretty fast. But for me, I can't play this robot because it's pretty confusing, and you have to buy it for gold, so I wouldn't recommend it. Always buy silver robots when you're in lower leagues. Then when you're in higher leagues, maybe if you have all 5 hanger slots, maybe you could invest a little bit of gold into a robot. But mostly I wouldn't recommend it to a robot, I'd recommend it into a weapon. And then you should craft everything else. And by the way, the Fujin and the Rhino, they're both C tier. And so yeah, this is the next robot. It's the Kamiho. I personally put it in B tier because B tier is the land of the skill robots. This robot has 2 dashes that regenerate very quickly. It has 2 medium weapons, so it's a very good assassin robot and a very good beacon runner. But you have to play it very smart because it doesn't have that much health. And you'll just get destroyed. But you should probably run weapons that do damage over time. So probably Scourge, Atomizer. If you don't have that much money, then maybe you should use Punishers or Turons. But I wouldn't recommend this robot because, again, like all the other robots I don't recommend, it costs gold. And next we have the Carnage. It has an energy shield and its ability is to run faster. So it's kind of the opposite of Fujin. But again, it's in the same boat as Fujin. It's very good in lower leagues, but very bad in higher leagues because of the energy shield and it doesn't have that much health. So it decreases in value a lot and it costs gold. So definitely don't get this robot. And next up we have the Aochin. Oh wait. The Carnage, by the way, is B tier. But now we have the Aochin, which is C tier. And it's the smallest of the dragon robots. It doesn't have a lot of health. It's decently fast. It has 4 light weapons. It costs gold. It has a good amount of firepower. It's very good in lower leagues. But it just costs gold, so I wouldn't recommend this. And then you have the Hover, which is in B tier. It can cover long distance in a short period of time. It's one of the fastest robots in the entire game. If you put jump unit on it, you'll be able to cover a whole sniper map. Well, not really, but you could cover a lot of it. And when you fly up in the air, you're an easy target. So you should be very cautious of that. It costs gold. And it has a decent amount of firepower, a decent amount of health, but not enough to be just flying through the air. And it isn't very competitive in higher leagues. And yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. And then we have the Fury. Now this robot is it's pretty complicated because It is in B tier. It's a better version of Natasha. Imagine it's the same thing as Natasha, only take away both of its light weapons and add a heavy weapon. It has a little bit more firepower than it, which makes it a better sniper, a better brawler, but it's worth components. Now, you can get it in a crate, so if you do end up getting it, then you should probably run it until you get another robot with a lot of firepower. So maybe you could upgrade it to an Ares or a Hawk or something like that with a lot of firepower to replace it. Or maybe you could run a Behemoth instead of it, but it does cost gold, so if you don't get it in a crate, I wouldn't recommend it. And it's not very good for more than Expert League. I think that's competitive until Expert League if you run sniper weapons on it. This is a Hellburner. It's also in B tier. It's a kamikaze robot. So what happens with its ability is you run faster and then you detonate. So I have an ECU shield and an Ansel shield to block damage. Then I run up to this leech and he just phase shifts. That's a good example of why this robot isn't very good anymore. Because of phase shift and resistance and damage throwback. There are so many counters to you. You could get locked down and you just do damage to yourself. And some robots do so much damage to you. And it's just not worth it. It's worth components. Don't get this robot. You should probably get another robot for a beacon runner. But it does have its moments. It can be fun sometimes, but if you really, really want to win, then don't get that robot. Next we have the Lancelot, the biggest of the shielded robots, the English robots. 2 medium, 1 heavy, a lot of firepower. It's very slow. And robots like, right now, robots like the Lancelot and the Inquisitor, big robots like that, they have trouble walking for some reason. They have a bug. But yeah, it's very tanky. It's pretty fast, but because of that walking bug, you can't really do much. I wouldn't recommend this robot. It's worth components. You can get much better things with components. And yeah, we're jumping into Wayland now. The Lancelot, by the way, was B tier. The Wayland also is B tier. And by this time, people were starting to figure out that the Ivory Atomizer was bugged and it was overpowered. It was doing like double the damage. And yeah, it died very fast, but this robot, it can heal, but it stays stationary like the Fujin. And it has 2 heavy weapons. But I wouldn't recommend it, because it costs components. You could get something way better. If you want a healer robot, you could get a Nightingale, you could get a Tyr, you could get a Mender. Those 3 are so much better than the Wayland at healing, and they're way better at combat too. So don't get the Wayland. And then we have the Raijin, which is also B tier. It has a very big physical shield that lasts a long time. It is very tanky, has a lot of health. It's the same thing as a Wayland in that it sets up camp, it stops, and then it activates its shield. And it can do a lot of damage on a beacon, but it's worth gold. So I wouldn't recommend it still, because you shouldn't use your gold on a robot that's good short term. The Raijin, it kind of holds its value pretty well, but not as good as other robots. Not as good as like other robots could do. Next, we're getting into the better robots. We have the Inquisitor here. It has a stealth jump that lasts for 5 seconds once you touch the ground, It has two heavy, or one heavy, two medium, sorry. And yeah, its ability recharges very slowly. It doesn't have that much health. And you could get whooped very easily with this robot. But as you can see here, you could do some very good things with it. But again, it is a better robot than all the others that I've talked about so far. But you could get better things in it for components. It does hold its value pretty well though. Not as good as it could be. We have the Haichi. Both of these, the Inquisitor and the Haichi, are B tier, by the way. The Haichi has 2 dashes, an energy shield, and the dashes recharge very slowly. It has 3 medium weapons, which makes it have a lot of firepower. You could be very tricky with it. The thing is the energy shield. It's not very tanky underneath the energy shield, and everybody runs energy weapons now, so you probably shouldn't run this robot. You probably shouldn't get it, because very rarely it would be good. Because everything will just bypass your energy shield and you'll just die because you don't have a lot of health. Next we have the Bulgazari B tier. Haichu and Bulgazari are yin and yang, the opposites. They both have 3 medium weapons. Instead of an energy shield, though, Bulgazari has a physical shield that has at one side. It's very good with Scourge, because Scourge is a lock-on weapon and can dish out a lot of damage. And you can hold a physical shield out and still shoot with the Scourge very well. But somehow my physical shield broke so fast because of these bugged weapons. And it shouldn't break that fast. The physical shield on that is very strong. But I wouldn't recommend it because it's worth components, and just like always, you could get better things for it, for components. But next we're jumping into Cerberus. Don't get this robot. Please don't get it, because you could just get a Typhon now. A Typhon is literally better than the Cerberus in every way. If you don't know, the Cerberus has an Aegis shield, which recharges very fast. It doesn't have a lot of health. Its Aegis shield doesn't have a lot of health. It has a decent amount of firepower. It locks you down, it suppresses you, and it has corrosion with its ability that has 350 meters range. But it doesn't, you can just phase shift out of it. It's not very good. If you do apply skill to it, though, a lot of skill, it does require probably the most amount of skill than any robot in the game. If you do apply that, then maybe it could be semi-competitive all the way up to masters, but not really. You have to do a lot with it. But it's B tier. Now we're in the Raker, which is also B tier. This robot also requires some skill, but it doesn't require as much as the Cerberus. It's very fast. It's very small. It doesn't have a lot of health. And it shoots suppression charges, which makes it very useful. You shoot a suppression charge at someone, they're suppressed, they can't do damage to you, and you have 2 light, 1 heavy. That's a lot of firepower. You can do free damage to them while that suppression is happening. But as you can see, with this Aljun here, they can just use their abilities on you and just kind of destroy you. But if you have phase shift, you should be fine. The only thing is when you are dealing with multiple enemies and very strong enemies like A tier and above. That's when this robot doesn't do so good. But it does have the it is components. If you do want a suppression robot, I actually would recommend this robot, but there is the Blitz, and there is the Nightingale. There is the Invader, which are all better than it. But if you do apply the right amount of skill, you can still be as good as them. Not even joking, but it is a skill robot, so that's why I put it in B tier. It can be an A tier robot, but since you do have to apply vast sums of skill to it, it technically isn't an A tier robot. And next we have the Ao Guang. It has resistance when it flies up. It shoots rockets. It has 3 medium weapons, which makes it have a lot of firepower. But it would be competitive. It's a very fun robot to play, but with all the resistance breaking things, all the resistant bypass things, the Gauss, the Volt, the Weaver, the Hawk, it's just not good. People will just shoot you down from the other side of the map. They'll just ignore your resistance and you'll die. But next we have one of my favorite robots, the Strider, by the way. Those two, the Raker and the Ao Guang, are both B tier. Strider is also B tier. You have to apply vast sums of skill to it to make it work. 2 light, 1 heavy. It has 5 dashes, making it the fastest short-term robot in the game, if you have jump unit. It's faster than the Raven and the Hover in a short period of time if you spam dashes. It's a very good assassin robot, but it doesn't have a lot of health, and if you get locked down, you're basically dead. So you have to be very careful with it. But it can do a lot of damage. It can cause a lot of havoc, even in Champion League. But you have to have it at least Mark 1 level 11 if you want it to be competitive in Champion League. But still, you'll still have to apply a lot of skill to it to make it work. Wouldn't recommend it because it's worth components. And if you want a fast robot, you could just get a Phantom or a Loki. Those are both better and they're a little slower, but they're still worth it. Next, we have the Raven. It's the Griffin, but with more health. I think it actually has the same amount of health, right? With similar amounts of health, let's just say that, and extra jump. If you run jump unit on this thing, you jump with a jump unit. In midair, you jump with your first ability jump. You're already halfway across the map, and then you use your second one. And you can cover 75% of the map in no time at all. It's a very fast robot. But the thing is that it uses its speed with jumps, which makes you very vulnerable because you're in the air without stealth or without resistance. So you can get shot down very easily. But if you're careful and you're tricky, then you can make it work very well. It's you can use your jump with drones. You can do damage with your jump. You can heal with the pilot when you jump. And yeah, with all of its ability charges, it can be a very devastating robot. And no one will expect it because no one ever sees Ravens at high level play. But if you're just starting out with components, with Workshop, this will be a decent pick for you. It won't be the best pick. I wouldn't advise it that much, but it wouldn't be that bad if you picked it. Because it will be fast, and if you learn how to play the game very well, then you'll be able to make it work very well, and it'll last you until Master 1 or Champion, if you level it up a lot. Next we have the Falcon. Now, it really makes me sad to put this robot in B tier. It's the tankiest robot. Voice cracks. It's the tankiest robot in the game. But it uses tankiness with resistance. With the Hawk, the Volt, the Gauss, the Weaver, and Titans, it just gets nerfed so much. It's the indirect nerfs to this robot are through the roof. Everything breaks its resistance, it feels like. And when you use your ability, you lower your resistance and you get 2 additional heavy weapons to your 1 heavy weapon. So, if you sacrifice your resistance, you get a jump and you get the firepower of a Fury. But you have less health. And then when the ability is done, you have like 66% resistance. And you could even put a skill on it, which is called Traditionalist for a pilot, which makes it so that your 2 additional heavy weapons deactivate, but you have like 50% extra resistance. So, yeah, you can imagine how tanky it is. It's basically impossible to take out, but with all the Hawks, it's very possible to take out now. I wouldn't recommend it. It could work if you get lucky and you get into a lobby with not that many Hawks. It could be one of the best robots in there, but it's not the most reliable robot because of that reason. Now we're jumping into the Mercury. And it has a stealth jump. It has the same duration as the Inquisitor, but you can trigger your landing. And when it comes down, it does an explosion. Kind of like a Hellburner, but you don't do damage to yourself. And it can be countered easily, just like the Hellburner. You can just phase shift, and that's the end of the story. You just have to wait like 2 seconds to stealth out, but you don't take the damage from the explosion. And you could just use your ability then and just whip the what's it called? This robot. But the Mercury, that's what I was thinking of. It does have a decent amount of firepower. It can hold its value until Champion League. This robot will be able to work in Champion League. It won't be the most competitive thing, but it'll be decent. It's B tier. So is the Falcon. And so is the Behemoth, which you're seeing right now. It has a let's see. I guess you could say it has the second most firepower in the game. For a robot. I think that the Ares with its ability going and overdrive does more damage than this thing with overdrive. But it has 4 heavy weapons. It immobilizes itself when it has 4 heavy weapons out. But yeah, you can have 2 heavy weapons out at all times. It has almost 200,000 health. It has less health than Leo, but still pretty good. And it's very slow. So you're a very vulnerable robot to resistance, which everything has now. So if you run shotguns like I'm doing right now with Glory, I got lucky here, by the way. The enemies aren't paying attention to me. That's why I'm able to do good with it. But if you try to run close range weapons on this in higher leagues, probably from expert above, you're just going to get destroyed. Destroyed very hard. And you could run snipers on this, but then again, why run a Behemoth sniper? I mean, you could run a Jaeger, right? Because the Jaeger has an Aegis shield. It can move when it uses its ability. It has almost as much firepower. It's a better sniper, and the Behemoth isn't a good brawler. That's why it doesn't really have a very good place in higher leagues. But it's decent. It can snipe. It's just not the best sniper, but it's still very good. That's why it's in B tier. Next we're jumping into Spectre. It has virtually no health. In Champion League, in Master League, and Expert League, you're just going to get one tapped. And you have a stealth jump. When you hit the ground, you only have 2 seconds of stealth. You have 4 medium weapons, which is a lot of firepower. It doesn't hold its value well at all because it just dies so fast. It will be good in lower leagues, but in higher leagues, not very good. It's worth components. I wouldn't recommend getting it because if you're gonna have to switch it for a better component robot. So why not just get a really good component robot instead of it? But it can be good in Champion League if you run like maybe weapons that don't require line of sight, like Vortex or Hydra. Maybe you could run snipers too, like Ballista. But enough Spectre talk. Now we have the Pursuer. The Pursuer is a better version of Stalker, but it gets faster when it uses its ability. Its ability lasts forever. Like next to the Nightingale, it has the longest ability duration. And it has 3 light weapons. So if you run Shredders on it, like I was running, then you can do good. This is A tier robot. The Pursuer is an A tier robot. And I would recommend getting it. I would recommend getting it. If it's worth components, I would recommend getting it for components. And yeah, you do have to apply a little bit of skill to it, but not that much. I think most people can handle the Pursuer gameplay. But now it's the Jaeger, the robot that I was talking about before. The best sniper. So it's bugged in the test server. It can't move. I didn't read like the patch notes or what was going to be tested, but it can't move. And it has a lot of firepower. I'm running it with Nucleons, not with snipers, because I knew that I was going to get Moon. For some reason, the tester was just picking Moon every time. But yeah, as an Aegis shield, it's kind of tanky with the Aegis shield. And if you're looking for a sniper, this is my number one pick. My number one recommendation for a sniper robot. It's worth components, and it's very good. Next in A tier, we have the Nemesis. Now, some say it might be B tier, but I think that this robot is very underrated. Its ability recharges like in an instant. It has 2 medium weapons. That's not a lot of firepower, but it's not like the worst ever. It's pretty bad in Champion League, but its shield recharges a lot, and its shield does like a pretty good amount of damage. Not as much as like its brethren, but it is still a good robot. It doesn't do as much damage, but it does have a shield, and it's very tanky. So I wouldn't get the Nemesis for its damage output. I would get it for its survivability. And it's a good counter for Hawks. It's a good counter for Typhons. It's a good counter for Scorpions. It's a good counter for the meta right now. So I would highly recommend this robot. But it does require some skill. But again, I think most players can handle it. Next is the Nightingale, the number one most annoying robot in the game. Nemesis and Nightingale are both A tier. The Pursuer is as well. And why did I jump out of it? It's an A tier robot because it flies forever. It gets his ability in an instant. It can heal your teammates. It can suppress your teammates. It's the best healing robot. If you want to heal your teammates, this is my number one recommendation. And yeah, it has a good amount of firepower. It suppresses everyone all the time. It's the most annoying. It makes you rage. But yeah, it's good. It is a good robot. And then we have the Blitz, also A tier. If you have the legendary pilot, you're still A tier. Because, well, actually, if you don't have the legendary pilot on the Blitz, it's a B tier. But just because the legendary pilot is very abundant, a lot of people have it and can get it. It's an A tier robot because you get, like, how much resistance? Like 80%, 90%. And then you suppress, so you can even counter Titans even though you have resistance. You can counter Hawks because you can suppress them. Typhons are a problem, though. You have 4 light weapons, it's a lot of damage output. You're very fast when you use your ability. You can even be fast when you don't use it if you have a Roadhog, an adamant Roadhog on your pilot. But, yeah, it's a good assassin robot. And I would highly recommend it. Recommend to get it in any league. You don't even need the legendary pilot to be that competitive. So yeah, Blitz, very solid. Next, we're in the Bulwark. Now, many people would say that this is a B tier robot, but I don't think it is. This robot is definitely A tier. It's a very strong A tier. Many people don't know how to play it. Like, it's either they don't pay attention to their shield rotation or they just generally don't know. It's a pretty confusing robot to play, but it's a very tanky robot. Your Aegis shield is probably the strongest Aegis shield in the game. You have a lot of health, base health on your robot. You can put healing on it. You have a strong physical shield. All you have to do is rotate your shields. And, yeah, it's very strong. It's very tanky. It has a good amount of firepower with 2 heavy. It's pretty slow, but that's not why people want the Bulwark. They want it because it can hold down a beacon. And it doesn't use resistance, so it can even like battle against Titans. You just have to have it well leveled to do that. And I'm running the wrong type of weapons on this, by the way. Don't run these weapons, Exodus or burst damage weapons. I'm fighting Titans right now, so it would be better if I would be running Nucleon or Calamity or something, or Ember or Redeemer. Weapons that do good damage burst, but also do good damage long periods of time. That's why those weapons are more competitive in this meta. I would be doing way more damage right now. But yeah, Bulwark is very strong. You just have to know how to play it. It's not even like a skill robot. It's just you have to know. Next off, we're starting off with the Phantom. This robot, I highly recommend it for anybody. Anybody out there. I recommend the Phantom. I bring to you this robot. Well, I recommend this robot because you're super fast. You're very fast and you're very tanky. You have a very good amount of firepower. You are the universal robot in the game. You are the definition of usability with this robot. You can be a brawler. You can... Well, basically, it's the best brawler. You can't snipe with it. It wouldn't make sense to snipe with it, but it is the definition of usability. You do have resistance, though. So Hawks, Titans, they will bring you down. But the Phantom is still very viable. It is extremely viable. I highly recommend it for anybody. But next we're jumping into the Mender. It's also a very good healing robot. Doesn't suppress people, so... But it's very tanky with advanced repair. You can do a lot with it. And yeah, it's A tier. A lot of people don't know how to use it very well. But it's very good. It's a very good robot. If you use it the right way, you don't even need that much skill to make it work. And here we have the Aojun, the number 1 robot in severe pain. the robot that has been nerfed to the ground. It's eating dirt right now. It's terrible. It's not a terrible robot, but like the nerfs are like bad. It used to be the best robot or one of the best robots, top 2, top 3 for the longest time. Since before the Ares came into the game to like the Ravana. It's like literally had the longest run ever. And it just gets nerfed to the ground. But anyway, it's a good robot because you have stealth, you're pretty tanky. You're not that tanky, but you have a lot of firepower in your stealth. You can counter Titans very well, but your stealth doesn't last that long. But you have to be very careful with it. I wouldn't recommend it that much, though. It is an A tier still, though, which is good to see, but maybe as like 2 or 3 more very good robots come into the game, I will have to bump it down to B tier. It's borderline A tier right now. It's really struggling. But yeah, we're jumping into my favorite robot in the entire game now. The Ares. I like this robot so much because it's just like, it's like do or die. It's like risky. You have your ability for a very long time. It lasts a long time. It does the most damage out of all the Pantheon robots. It's the fastest, where it receives the biggest nerf. When it uses its shield, it gets the slowest. It has the least amount of health. And it's A tier because it's the best Titan Slayer. I'd say it's better than Hawk at beating Titans, because if you have overdrive on this, the ability, you don't even need Deathmark. You just kill an out Ming in one ability use. It's beautiful. And it's still pretty fast too. I just like the concept a lot. A glass cannon, right? I think that's what it's called. You can see here the full range of the ability use. Test server was lagging a lot. And imagine if I would have had overdrive, he would be dead in one ability use. And yeah, I phase shifted because the test server was lagging. But yeah, as you can see here, scorpions counter it a lot. You have to be very careful. You have to have phase shift. The best setups are Atomizer, Quarker, Spark, Scourge, Pulsar, Spark. Yeah, I don't know why I included so much gameplay. Alright, the tester was lagging a lot, but we're back, and now we have the Invader. Everybody's favorite spider, but it's tanky. You can suppress everybody around you. It doesn't matter if they're going through last stand or something. It doesn't matter if they have a shield. You'll be able to suppress them. And Adrian actually came out with a very good Invader video that shows its strengths very well. And the Invader was actually bugged in this test server. You had your ability like every 6 seconds. But I tried not to abuse it. I tried to play it honestly and not use the ability so much. And its ability cooldown is very long in the live server. But those Ivory Atomizers were so bugged. They did so much damage. It wasn't a very good display of the Invader, but it's very viable All the robots in A tier and in S tier, by the way, are worth components. It's the Invaders A tier. I would recommend it. It's pretty good, basically in all leagues. In Champion League, to whenever you can craft stuff. But now we have the Loki, the second most annoying robot in the game. It has infinite stealth. It has infinite stealth. It has 3 light weapons. It has no health, which kind of balances it out. But you can run beacons forever if you want. And you can be very fast with pilot skills. Highly recommend it. But don't buy it because it's bad for game balancing. If everyone has one. But it's very good for beacon running. It'll help you a lot in any league. So yeah, I do recommend it. Next we have the tier. Alright, list of things that the tier can do. Hold down a beacon. Heal teammates. Brawl with whatever robot. Even Titans. It can do... It's... You know when I say that the Phantom is the definition of usability? This is also the definition of usability, only that it's not that fast. But you can heal your teammates, so you can get those points, whatever they're called, the honor points. And then you can just brawl anyone down. You can literally brawl with a hawk. It's amazing. Everyone underestimates this robot. I have a Nightingale in my hangar right now. I'm actually gonna start crafting myself a tier, because even though Nightingale is a better healer, I think that the tier overall, I think I like the gameplay more personally, and I think that it's a better usability overall. Well, not really, because it doesn't heal as much as the Nightingale does, but it's still, I like it more personally. And I would highly recommend it for any league. It's A tier. Components. It has a good amount of firepower. But with these bugged weapons, I just died so fast. Next, we have the Leech. Yes, the Leech is not in S tier. I'm sorry, everyone. The Leech isn't in S tier. It's not one of the top 5 this time around. Because everything breaks resistance again. The Leech, by the way, activates like, I don't know, 60-70% resistance when it uses its ability. Then you get a beam that goes to someone. And it, whenever they shoot you, they get damage thrown back at them. And whenever other people shoot you, it also gets damage thrown back at that person that you leeched on. It has 4 medium weapons. It's pretty fast, especially with pilot skills. And highly recommend it for any league. Very competitive. This is also very usable, just like the Phantom is. So yeah. But it's not one of the top 5, because it doesn't have a lot of base health. And it isn't, everything breaks resistance now. So Hawks will just destroy you. You have no shielding. You have nothing to save you. You only have phase shift, but Hawks last longer than that. Their abilities. Also, Titans do too. So it's still a very good robot. That if you want to get a brawler, you should get this robot. This robot or a Fenrir or something like that. But the Leech is faster. And also Scorpions will just destroy it too, so yeah. And the test server lagged. That's what I was saying at the beginning of the video, that it would be a kinda scuffed. Good setups on it are Scourge, Havoc, Atomizer, Wasp, Igniter. I mean, you could also make it work with shotguns, but they're not as good as the Havocs are. And if you're in lower leagues, you could use Turons. Turons work very well. I use Turons on mine because I'm poor. I can't afford anything better, but maybe I have 3 Scourges right now, so maybe I could craft myself another one and make a Scourge Leech. That would be pretty good, but not as good. Now, we're jumping into the next two about the Hades. Now, I ranked the Hades and the Ares in the same tier, A tier. They both cost components, but I will admit, the Hades is better than the Ares. You have your ability sooner, your tank, you're a little bit slower, your ability does a little bit less damage, it lasts less time. It lasts a lot less time actually. But it still lasts a pretty good time. But it's just a better all rounder than the Ares. The Ares is like very risky. And unfortunately it didn't make it into the top 5. I don't really have a reason why. It could definitely be in the top 5, but I had to choose. This is an S tier robot, but I had to put in A tier because I reserved that only for the top 5. This robot is equally as good as the 5th place S tier robot. Speaking of the 5th place S tier robot, by the way, I would recommend the Hades for any league. Highly recommend it. But speaking of the 5th place S tier robot, we have it. The 5th place S tier robot is the Fenrir. This thing, with the legendary pilot now, it's just not even fair. It has 2 medium, 1 heavy. It's almost as tanky as a Falcon. And with armor modules and stuff, you can make it have like 500 base health, which means that you don't even need your resistance that much. By the way, sorry for the lag. You don't even need that much resistance. You can literally kill Titans with this because you don't even need your resistance to do very well. But you do have it, which makes you even stronger against normal robots. I recommend this robot so much. You don't even need the legendary pilot for it. But if you don't upgrade it that much, it won't be that useful because it's slow. But this is the only resistance robot. The Phantom and the Fenrir are the only 2 resistance robots that Titans basically don't matter much with. It's crazy. The Fenrir is mad. It's insane. But anyway, jumping into the 3rd place S tier robot. It's the Typhon, the new robot. 4 medium weapons. It's the better version of Cerberus. It locks you down, suppresses you, adds corrosion to you. It doesn't allow you to use your active module. It doesn't allow you to use your ability. There's no escape if you get hit by this robot's ability. And you have so much firepower that no one even has a chance. If you have Last Stand, your Last Stand is released immediately. And then you'll be able to survive, but not for long. Definitely not for long. And the only way you can beat this robot is if you're an attentive gamer, alright? You have to know when the person in the Typhon is going to use their ability. And so, yeah, it's crazy. But it's got a strong Aegis shield and it recharges the fastest in the game. If you put fortifiers on it, its Aegis shield is it can't be dropped. It just keeps regenerating faster than you can destroy it. So yeah, very solid. Then this is the 1st place S tier robot, the number 1 robot in the game right now. It's the Hawk. Too heavy, too light. Same firepower as in Natasha. A lot of firepower. It's not a. It doesn't have a lot of health. I've got to admit that. It's a big target, has a big hitbox, but your ability, it's so insane. It it recharges decently fast. Not the it actually no, it recharges very slow. But you fly for like very long. You fly almost as long as a nightingale. Not almost as long, but like half as long, which is saying a lot. A nightingale flies for very long. You have 90% resistance. You throw back like 50% of it or something to anybody. And you with the pilot you can't be locked or suppressed. And you do like you can kill a Titan in one go with one ability use with overdrive unit. Highly recommend the robot for any league, anybody, anywhere, any place. Yeah, next this is actually the 4th place S tier robot, the Ravena, and I don't know, this robot just feels incomplete now. I don't know. It got nerfed, which is a good thing. But you need to run Havocs on it. Okay? You need to run Havocs on it to be very good. It's the best free-for-all robot in the entire game. Better than anything in free-for-all. And it just feels incomplete though. Its ability doesn't last that long. And it's still one of the best robots. I don't know why. But it's very good. S tier. And there's basically no counter to the Ravena. You can counter any robot. You can counter the Typhon with it. You can counter the Hawk. With all those ability uses, you can counter everything. It's the counter to the counter to the counter. It's the best counter robot. It's immune to anything. And it has a lot of firepower. Therefore, I highly recommend it for anybody. This robot, I might even recommend the Ravena more than the first place and the second place robot. Which, by the way, is a Scorpion, which we just saw. Can jump onto someone with massive speed. You have massive firepower. You have massive resistance. If you have a drone, you can suppress people. You can be in stealth with the pilot, with the freaking the I said freaking, by the way, with the what's it called, the module, the stealth module. And yeah, it's insane. Second place robot in the entire game. And actually, you just saw the actual best robot in the game, the Kazakh, everybody. Number 1 robot in the game, always will be. The best robot. Actually, no, it isn't. I was just joking. It's actually F tier. But it's not the worst robot in the game. It's better than Destria, at least. And I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear people's thoughts. This is a shell robot. It's like the Hellburner 2.0. It's mixed with... It's like the Arthur. It's half Hellburner, half Arthur. You get the idea. It has physical shields all around. It has a lot of health. It has 1 heavy, 2 lights. It gets faster when it uses its ability. It doesn't do damage to itself when it uses its ability, and it detonates. Detonates. Sorry. And yeah, it does pretty good damage too, and it pushes people away with its ability. I think that at the very least, when this robot is added into the game, it's going to be A tier. At the very least, for sure. If, we'll see how it does. If it does good, if it does very good, then it might even be S tier. It might shame the Hawk. It might shame Scorpion. It might shame Typhon. It might shame Fenrir. It might shame Ravena. It might be like the best robot in the game for like forever. But yeah, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on how it's gonna be. But anyway, yeah, here are my last thoughts. Basically, if you want to do very good in basically any situation, if you want to get a good, let's see, okay, if you want to get good robots, the best robots for lower league, get Leo, Natasha, and Griffin. Those three, because they're cheap and they're good. Also, if you want to do good in higher leagues, get any robot in A tier or in S tier. The Fenrir and the Blitz, they probably won't perform as well on their own, because they do get way better with their pilots. But if you do have the pilots, definitely go for those. The Blitz and the Fenrir, if you have their pilots, you should probably get those two first. But actually, here's some advice. Don't get the top 3 S tier robots, especially if they're new. And here's why. Because everybody's going to be complaining about them, right? Because they're going to be so good. They're going to be destroying everything. So they're undoubtedly going to be getting a nerf. And you're going to need to replace them. So you should probably go, if you want an S tier robot, you should probably go for the 4th place or the 5th place. Or any A tier. I think that if you go A tier, that's a safe way to go. Or if you're a person with a lot of resources that can spend money on the game and afford to buy one of those S tier robots and do very good with it, then yeah, go for it. The top 3 S tier robots are the best robots in the game. But it's risky getting them, investing the time in them, because they're probably going to get nerfed soon. I don't want to scare you guys in not getting them, but that's the truth, and maybe you could enjoy them while you have them, while you buy them. But yeah, that's some pretty good advice for you guys. And yeah, A tier and S tier are all very good robots. Highly recommend all of them. B tier, yeah, some of them are pretty good, but not as good. I wouldn't recommend some of them. C tier, very good for lower leagues, which is, by the way, recruit all the way to gold. And D tier, pretty bad everywhere. F tier, very terrible everywhere. Yeah, basically, if you guys enjoy, like, subscribe, and do new things. Rebelly sings. Bye bye.